Are you sure you see the real world?
Well, that's a pretty unsettling question to start with, honestly.
Right. Because, I mean, if you ask anyone that, the answer is an immediate defensive, of course I do. You open your eyes, you see the room, you see your hands, you see the screen in front of you.
Yeah, it feels effortless.
Exactly. It feels like direct contact with reality. Like there's no middleman.
We all walk around with this deeply ingrained assumption that our eyes are basically just biological video cameras.
Yeah.
We think the lenses take in light, send a live video feed to the back of our heads, and the brain is just, sitting there in a little theater, eating popcorn and watching the show.
But the stack of cognitive science notes we're diving into today, and welcome to the deep dive, by the way, completely obliterates that idea.
It really does. It flips it totally upside down.
Right. Because our mission today is to unravel this wild scientific mystery. We are going to look at evidence that proves everything you think you see is actually, well, an illusion built by your own mind. We're exploring why you never experience reality directly, but rather you just experience your brain's best continuous guess.
And we should set the stakes right here at the top. This isn't science fiction. It's not, dorm room philosophy. This is hard biology.
Which is the crazy part. To understand what's actually happening when you, quote-unquote, see something, you have to look at the physical, biological reality of where your brain actually lives. And honestly, this is the central shock for me in these sources. Your brain is locked inside a pitch-black, silent box.
The skull.
Right, it's a sealed vault. There's absolutely no light inside your skull, none. There's no sound, there's no smell, no color. The brain never directly touches the outside world.
No face-to-face contact with reality at all.
Zero.
All it receives are these streams of electrochemical signals. I mean, the retina in your eye is really just a transducer.
A transducer, right.
Yeah, it just takes incoming photons and converts them into nerve impulses. And your ear takes vibrating air molecules, converts them into impulses. Your skin converts physical pressure into impulses.
So the brain, sitting in absolute darkness, is just receiving these frantic little blips of electricity.
Exactly, just blips.
Okay, let's put ourselves in the brain's perspective for a second, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you are locked inside a completely windowless room. You've been in there your entire life.
Okay, pretty claustrophobic.
Very. And suddenly, someone starts sliding pieces of ticker tape under the door. And on this tape is nothing but a continuous stream of random numbers and, vibrations.
Right.
Based on absolutely nothing but that ticker tape, you have to instantly deduce, is it a beautiful sunny day outside? Or is there a hungry predator pacing right by the door?
And the thing is, if the brain had to start from scratch every single millisecond, analyzing that raw bottom-up ticker tape data to construct a high-definition image of the whole world, it would completely fail.
It's just too much data, right?
Way too much. The processing power required would be astronomical. It literally takes too long for the electricity to travel from your eye to your visual cortex to construct an image pixel by pixel.
So you're just lagging behind reality.
Yeah, by the time you finish building the image of, say, a tiger jumping at you, you'd already be eaten.
So the biological workaround is that the brain cheats. It doesn't wait for the data. It predicts.
Exactly. It uses past experience to build a model of the world in advance. And in neuroscience, there's this fascinating biological proof of this in the sources.
Oh, the wiring thing.
Yeah, the physical wiring of the brain. If you look at the pathways between the visual cortex and the thalamus, which is sort of the brain's sensory relay station, you would expect most of the connections to be flowing up from the eyes to the brain, bottom-up processing.
Right, like a camera feeding data to the processor.
But the physical reality is the exact opposite. There are massively more neural pathways projecting down from the cortex to the thalamus. The brain is actively sending signals out to intercept and shape the incoming data. This is what we call top-down processing.
So the brain is sending its expectations out in advance. Like if you walk into your kitchen first thing in the morning, your brain doesn't painstakingly scan every edge and color to figure out what a refrigerator is.
No, not at all.
It already expects the table, the kettle, the cup, the fridge. It knows how the morning light falls in that specific room.
It basically preloads the environment. It is projecting a highly detailed simulation of your kitchen from the inside out, and then it simply uses the incoming signals from your eyes, those little blips of electricity, to run a casual quality assurance check.
A QA check. I love that.
Yeah. It just asks the eyes, does the incoming data generally match the simulation we are running? And if it matches, you don't even notice the work.
You just feel like, hey, I see my kitchen.
Yeah.
But you're actually looking at a memory, basically. I guess. That just happens to be corroborated by your eyes.
Which, of course, forces us to look at the mechanics of what happens when the brain guesses wrong.
Right, because if the brain is predicting reality from inside this dark room, what physically happens when the simulation does not match the room?
So cognitive scientists call that a prediction error. It's the exact moment when the incoming external data contradicts the brain's internal model.
The mismatch.
Right. It generates a literal error signal. It's a spike of neural activity that basically forces the brain to wake up, pay attention, and update the simulation.
The missing stair.
Yes, the missing stair. It is the most visceral example of a prediction error we all know.
We've all felt this. You're walking down a staircase in the dark, and your brain's internal model is absolutely certain there is one more step.
It's so sure.
It has projected the stair, it has sent the motor commands to your legs, your muscles tense up for the impact, and your foot just drops into empty space.
Yep.
That jarring, terrifying stomach drop feeling, like the physical shock traveling up your spine.
Yeah.
That is a prediction error happening in real time. Your brain essentially hallucinated a physical stair that was not there.
And researchers use that exact word intentionally, by the way. The scientific term for everyday human perception is a controlled hallucination.
Wait, hold on. A hallucination? Because if you're saying my coffee cup is a hallucination, and everything I see is just a projection from inside my head, how are we both sitting here looking at the same notes right now?
It sounds a bit extreme, I know.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying reality isn't real? Because that sounds dangerously like, some late-night dorm room philosophy, not biology.
Wow, no, it's a crucial distinction. We're not saying the physical world doesn't exist. The territory is very real. If you walk off a real cliff, gravity will still pull you down.
Okay, good.
But your experience of that territory is a constructed map. The only difference between normal perception and, say, a clinical hallucination is how strongly that brain-generated map is tethered to the incoming external data.
So everyday perception is really just a hallucination that is successfully chained to reality.
Precisely. In normal perception, the internal model is tightly regulated by those prediction errors coming from the eyes and ears. The map is constantly being corrected by the territory.
When it breaks down.
Well, a clinical hallucination happens when that feedback loop breaks down. The internal model loses its anchor, the top-down predictions become completely untethered, and they overpower the sensory data. The brain just starts projecting its simulation without checking the facts.
Okay, so the territory is real, the map is a drawing. I get that. But this makes me wonder about the design of it all. If everyday perception is essentially this weird, top-down hallucination that constantly risks being wrong, why did evolution build us this way?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, why not just evolve better video camera eyes that actually capture objective reality?
Because the goal of perception has never been philosophical truth or total accuracy. The biological goal is survival. The external world is incredibly complex, it's chaotic, it's loud. If your brain tried to build an absolutely precise, high-definition, bottom-up picture of every single detail in your environment, every millisecond, it would completely overload. You would be paralyzed by processing.
So the brain is optimizing for speed and energy conservation. It basically prefers a safe error over a deadly truth.
Exactly. The cost of making an error is not symmetrical in nature. Think about the classic evolutionary scenario mentioned in the research, the coat in the dark.
Oh, this is such a good example.
You wake up at 3 a.m., you look in the corner of your bedroom, and you clearly see a shadowy figure standing there.
Your heart rate spikes, your breathing stops, your pupils dilate to let in more light. You are physically preparing to fight or flee.
Total panic mode.
And then you reach over, turn on the lamp, and it's literally just your jacket thrown over the back of a chair.
Right. But in that fraction of a second, your brain did not neutrally process shapes and shading. It built a threat. From an evolutionary standpoint, it is infinitely safer to mistakenly perceive a coat as a home invader than to mistakenly perceive an actual home invader as a coat.
Yeah.
A false positive mistaking a coat for a threat costs you a spike of adrenaline and maybe a few seconds of lost sleep. A false negative mistaking a threat for a coat costs you your life.
So the human brain is heavily biased to hallucinate threats, which entirely explains why we always see faces in random patterns, right? Like faces in clouds or the man in the moon.
Exactly, pareidolia.
Identifying the social intentions of others is the most critical survival skill for a human being. The brain isn't an objective camera. It's a highly paranoid evolutionary alarm system. So we aren't really seeing neutral objects. We are seeing survival probabilities.
That's a great way to put it. We see the world strictly in terms of what we can do with it or what it can do to us. A door is not a rectangle of wood, it's an escape route. A shadow isn't a lack of photons, it's a place where a predator could hide.
And this is where the biological mechanism gets deeply personal. We've established that the brain predicts physical objects, the missing stair, the coat in the dark. But the sources point out that the brain applies this exact same predictive machinery to emotional and social realities too.
Yeah, the machinery doesn't change just because the stimulus is social. In moments of uncertainty, stress, or, what we might call a cognitive fog, the bottom-up data is ambiguous.
The ticker tape is messy.
Right, the ticker tape is messy. So the brain does what it always does. It relies heavily on its top-down internal models to fill in the blanks.
Which perfectly explains why two people can look at the exact same event and experience completely different realities. Like, let's look at the text message example from the notes.
Oh, the dreaded text message.
Right. You get a short text from a friend or a partner, and it just says, "We need to talk."
It's basically just a blank screen with a few neutral pixels. But if you have an internal model built on a history of sharp criticism, past betrayals, or, say, severe relationship anxiety, your visual cortex and auditory systems don't just process the text neutrally.
Your brain actively predicts a threat.
Exactly.
You literally hear a cold, accusatory tone of voice in your internal monologue. Your brain injects the tone. Your stomach drops. Cortisol floods your system. You are physically experiencing an attack before the rational part of your brain can even process the context.
Meanwhile, someone else with a completely different internal model, perhaps they have a very secure attachment style, a history of positive communication, they read the exact same text and assume their friend just wants to figure out lunch plans.
They are looking at the exact same pixels on a screen, but because of their different internal maps, they are inhabiting completely different realities. I mean, this breaks down every major relationship argument ever.
It really does.
When you have two people screaming, "You attacked me," and I just asked a simple question, they are both telling the absolute truth.
They are biologically perceiving two different worlds. And the profound realization here is that the past is literally continuing to render the present.
Wait, say that again? The past is rendering the present.
Yes, your past traumas, your childhood experiences, your old anxieties, they aren't just memories sitting passively in a file cabinet somewhere. They are the active algorithms drawing the physical and emotional world you walk through right now.
Man, that is heavy. Empathy takes on a whole new meaning when you realize the other person isn't just stubbornly refusing to look at the objective facts. They literally don't have access to your facts. Their brain is rendering a different simulation entirely.
And this applies to everyday habits, too. A habit is essentially just an expectation that became so stable, so reliable, that the brain hard-coded it to save energy.
Like driving to work on autopilot.
Right. The brain doesn't want to relearn how to navigate your commute every single day. It builds a model and runs it. But if that internal model is outdated, say you still expect rejection in a new job, even though you're now surrounded by supportive colleagues, your brain will continue to predict the old, threatening world, even when the environment has completely changed.
Okay, this brings up something we have to talk about.
Yeah.
We know large language models hallucinate when their prediction algorithms lose their anchor to training data. And looking at all this, it's terrifying to realize our biology is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, the parallel to artificial intelligence is unavoidable when discussing predictive processing.
It's the exact same architecture. We know that when an AI generates a completely fake legal precedent or a hallucinated historical event, it isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's predicting the most statistically likely continuation of a pattern based on its model.
Right.
But wait, does that mean we are just meat-based chatbots? Or are we just biological algorithms hallucinating the next most likely social interaction?
Well, it is a very seductive analogy, but we have to be incredibly careful the limits of that comparison. A human brain cannot be reduced to a disembodied language model. AI is a purely computational system processing static data.
It doesn't have a body.
Exactly. The biological brain is inextricably bound to a living, breathing, mortal body.
So the stakes are entirely different.
Completely different. The AI has no nervous system. It has no endocrine system. When your brain predicts a threat, it isn't just generating text on a screen. It is flooding your bloodstream with adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's accelerating your heart rate and shunting blood away from your digestive system to your major muscle groups so you can run.
It's a physical reaction to a physical world.
Yes, you are receiving constant, visceral, somatic feedback from a physical world that can actually kill you. AI hallucinations are a mechanical glitch. Human hallucinations are a desperate evolutionary bid to keep an organism alive.
So the AI is playing a video game, but we are playing for keeps. Okay, that distinction really helps.
Right.
But it brings us to a massive practical problem.
Which-
If I am essentially trapped inside a biological simulation built by my past traumas, my outdated fears, and my hard-coded habits, how do I ever get out? If my brain is automatically rendering my present based on my past, aren't I doomed to just repeat the same cycles forever?
But this is where the biology of predictive processing actually gives us the mechanism for change.
Yeah.
The brain's internal model is deeply entrenched, yes, but it is not permanent. It is a working hypothesis.
Okay.
And neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically rewire itself, is driven by one thing and one thing only: prediction errors.
You have to prove the brain wrong.
Exactly. You cannot change these deep internal models by just talking to yourself. You can't stand in front of a mirror, look at yourself, and say, think positive, and expect a biological algorithm to just rewrite its synaptic weights.
Right. The brain does not care about your bumper sticker slogans. It only respects data.
The only way to update the model is to force the brain to encounter repeated, meaningful prediction errors. And crucially, this has to happen in an environment where the stakes are manageable.
Let's break down the mechanics of this using the public speaking example from the research. Say your brain's internal model predicts that standing in front of a crowd will result in catastrophic social death.
A very common fear.
The moment you step on stage, your brain projects that threat. Your palms sweat, your chest tightens. You cannot just think your way out of that feeling.
Because the top-down prediction is already running, the physical cascade has started.
Right. So the only way to rewrite that specific code is to physically go through with the speech, survive it, and force the brain to process the bottom-up data. The brain predicted a cliff, but the sensory data coming back from the room says, hey, no one threw tomatoes, no one laughed at us, we are still alive.
And that mismatch generates an error signal. Biologically, encountering a prediction error that results in a better-than-expected outcome triggers a release of dopamine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that dopamine isn't just a reward chemical, it is a neuroplasticity signal.
Yep.
It physically flags those specific neural pathways and says, our model was wrong, the environment is safer than we thought, adjust the weights.
So over time, with enough exposure and enough of these dopamine-flagged prediction errors, the brain is forced to update the map. You literally rewire the hallucination.
Which is why exposure therapy is so effective, by the way. You are systematically feeding the brain prediction errors until the old model collapses.
This totally changes how I view the scientific method, too. If every single human is locked in a dark skull, projecting their own highly subjective, trauma-informed hallucination of reality, then science isn't just, guys in lab coats looking at beakers. It is the ultimate tool for collective fact-checking.
That's a beautiful way to frame it. It is a formalized system for comparing our prediction errors. A single brain is incredibly vulnerable to bias, survival instincts, and past baggage. But if we standardize how we measure the world, if we repeat experiments, compare our data, and aggressively invite criticism, we create a stabilizing anchor.
Objectivity isn't something humans are born with. We're profoundly biologically subjective creatures. Objectivity is a discipline. It's a practice we have to actively maintain by constantly checking our internal maps against the territory and against each other.
Exactly. Understanding predictive processing doesn't destroy the concept of reality. It actually highlights why we need rigorous methods of verification so badly. If your perception is a guess, you need a way to test it.
So let's look at the territory we've mapped out today. We started with the jarring physical reality of a brain trapped in the dark, silent vault of the skull, receiving nothing but a ticker tape of electrical blips. We saw how the visual cortex actively sends signals backward, projecting a model of reality from the inside out rather than passively receiving a video feed.
We felt the biological shock of the missing stair, the exact moment the map fails the territory. And we explored how evolution shaped this system to prioritize a fast, useful lie, like the coat in the dark, over a slow, dangerous truth.
And we traced how that exact same survival mechanism takes our past traumas, our old arguments, and our fears, and uses them to render the emotional tone of a simple text message. We are continuously experiencing our brain's best guess.
It demands a radical level of intellectual humility.
It really does. So the next time you find yourself in an argument with someone you care about, or the next time you are absolutely 100% certain you are seeing a situation exactly as it is, I want you to pause. Just take one deep breath and ask yourself, am I seeing objective reality, or am I just looking at my brain's best guess?
Because once you acknowledge it's a guess, you have the power to update it.
And I want to leave you with one final kind of mind-bending thought to take with you. We spent this entire deep dive talking about neuroplasticity, how the brain's model of reality is updated only by encountering new prediction errors and novel information. Well, consider the fact that simply by listening to this discussion today, you've just fed your visual and auditory cortex a massive wave of new data about how perception works.
You've introduced a profound prediction error into your own understanding of your mind.
Exactly. Because you now know this, your brain's internal model of itself has just permanently changed. You will literally never look at a shadow in the dark, a staircase, or an ambiguous text message the exact same way ever again. Your operating system just got an update.